Ducks fans, are you ready? You are listening to the Ducks and Pucks podcast. This is the #1 home for Anaheim Ducks talk and analysis. Here we go.
Welcome to the show. This is your host, Mike Walters. I'm here along with Eddie Richard, and we're going to finally wrap up the Ducks' pitiful season. Yes, I know you're all happy that it's now over. We're going to cover the last couple weeks here. Pretty emotional finish to the season. We had some farewells to Ryan Miller, David Backes also in St. Louis, and some other stuff to cover. A lot of crazy stuff going on. Ducks sending a bunch of players down to the goals. You have to look forward to that now with their playoffs. We'll dive into that. Some crazy league news involving your favorite player, Tom Wilson, and some other stuff that we'll cover as well. So a lot of stuff to go over. The best part, though, of the last 2 weeks was I got to get together with Eddie. We hadn't seen each other since that Delorier hat trick game before all this craziness. We ended up getting together and go to 2 games. And Eddie talked about losing weight and how he's going to start this new weight loss program. Just kidding. But no, seriously, we got to hang out for 2 weeks, 2 games. And dude, Eddie, I was cracking up, man. I saw you in person. You come over to my house. I'm like, who is this guy, dude? You've really trimmed down, man. I'm very, very impressed at what you were able to accomplish.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you. It took a lot of hard work, and I remember you made the comment about how my jeans are a little loose this time. It was funny because the same jeans I had on were tight, and now they're loose. I dropped down from almost a size 38 to a size 34, so it's pretty good to see. It's pretty good to see other people notice that too, especially people that haven't seen me that often. I haven't seen you in over a year, and the last time you see me, I was a little plump. So it's good. It's pretty good for you to acknowledge that, and I appreciate that. I also want to make an announcement live on the show. I didn't tell you this either, Mike. So this is a breaking news from my part. This is the first time all season that I'm gonna crack open a beer at the podcast and enjoy a beverage while I'm recording the podcast. So, Mike, cheers to you and cheers to my first drink on the show. For all, the last 4 months, I was able to drink this week, and I had a few beers. So, cracking open my first beer while I'm talking to you on the podcast. So, cheers to you and everybody else.
Cheers to you, too. I was disappointed you wouldn't have a drink with me at those 2 games. I was like, really, man? But you stuck to your guns. I'm proud of you.
Well, you got a free driver out of it. We didn't have to Uber, so we saved money on that.
That is true. We did. That's right. And I am drinking Jack Daniel's Apple, which is freaking fantastic. I just discovered this recently with Dr. Pepper, not Coke. Sorry, I love Dr. Pepper more than Coke. So if you like Coke and Jack, good for you. That's fine. I do too. But I like Dr. Pepper and Jack and this Jack Apple. So it's pretty fantastic if you haven't.
Yeah, that's really good. I was kind of pacing myself, not drinking too much liquor this weekend. I didn't want to get all hungover, not go to the gym. But I did have a half a shot of Crown, because my buddy that passed away, he was his favorite drink, and everyone drank a shot of that, and I was just waiting till I had a drink. But then my buddy gave me a shot of his Frank Sinatra Jack Daniels. That was really, really good. A little pricey and more money than I'd spent on a bottle, but it was good to have that shot. Now I just went old school. I'm just drinking a Bud Light Lime, keeping it simple. So, cheers, everybody.
Man, you know what's funny? The old school fans know Bud Light Lime used to be our drink, Eddie. That was the playoff drink. Remember, it was if we drank at least one Bud Light Lime during a Ducks playoff game, they would win. And I don't even remember, but when we were good, right? Haha, a long time ago. Remember that? The Ducks would almost win every single playoff game when we drank a Bud Light Lime. You're just taking me back.
Oh, yeah, well, I remember that comeback on Catella game. I remember I had the flu that game, so I wasn't drinking, and I was just sick as hell. And all of a sudden, they come back, and once they went to overtime, I was like, okay, no, I have to go get some beer. So I shot down in the liquor store, got some Bud Light Lime, came back, even though I was dying because I had the flu. I was really sick. I just was still just throwing them back, and all of a sudden, the Ducks win that game, and it's just perfect. I think I contributed a little bit by getting that Bud Light Lime and helping the Ducks. Some reason, some spiritual reason, me drinking a Bud Light Lime helped them win. No, but yeah, our Bud Light Lime is old school. That's always vintage. It's always cool too. It's a light beer. It tastes really good, and I think it's a really good summer beer. And you have to drink it in a can though. For some reason, the bottle doesn't taste the same.
That's too funny, man. And you know, we did post that comeback on Catella. a video that blew up on social media. And I always laugh because that day has a lot of meanings for me, because that's the day that my mom was born, right? Cinco de Mayo also as well. God bless her soul and everything. But I'll always just crack up that they came back on that day, and that was her birthday. And as all of you know, she's the one that got me into all this way back in 1993. She bought that first mini plan for the Ducks, and I guess the rest is history, right? None of this would have probably really existed, the podcast or the website or anything like that. So it's just been a weird couple weeks. A lot of stuff to go over and cover. It's been emotional. That's all I can say. I've had a lot of emotion in the last 2 weeks. Some happy stuff with Miller and Backus. Very, very emotional for them, obviously. I'm really not happy with the NHL. We'll go into that later in the show and break that down too. Some stuff that's happening. They might try to come after me again. We'll see. And we'll go into that too later. But so this last 2 weeks, the way the Ducks wrapped it up, they had 4 games against the Kings, 2 games against St. Louis, and 2 games against Minnesota. They had the first 2 on the road against LA, and then the 2 at home that Eddie and I talked about we were able to go to. And, it didn't start out that well. The Ducks got down 2-0 in that first game against LA. Ended up losing that one 4-1. Some empty net goals at the end. The Ducks did have Zegras up on the taxi squad. He didn't play and whatnot. And then we also found out that Henrique was added to the COVID protocol. He did not test positive, but he had a family member, so there's that whole contact thing. So he wasn't in for this game. So the Ducks started out these 4 games, Eddie, and it wasn't good. They lost this first one. It was closer, but they lost 4-1. And then, of course, they rallied in the second game and were able to come back and win. They were down 2-0 in that game and were able to do it. Fowler with a late goal in that one. Zegras did come back and play from that game on through the rest of the season. But what did you think about these 2 games with the Ducks in LA before they came back home?
I don't think they played too well. I was a little disappointed. That second game getting the win, that sparked me even better, because that was the first game I bet my buddy the best of 3 games left, $100. Whoever wins the best of 3 series. So I was pretty happy that they came out and got that win. Especially, I was happy to see them come back from that 2 goals from being behind, and those old school flair of the comeback kids. Always happy to see Sam Carrick get another goal this season. I think he's one of those players that works extremely hard at what he does. He you don't expect him to come up there and be a top producer. He's never going to do that in NHL. His role's already set. He's going to be a future AHLer. But having him come up and give the Ducks energy and have him produce with the goals and the points. He had 6 points this season. It's a career high in all the stats. It was really good to see that. So anytime you can see a player like that score a goal and help the Ducks get a win, that's always just a positive and a plus. It was great. He was named one of the 3 stars of the game too, the 3rd star of that game. So it was just good to see. So it was a good start off game to leave LA, to leave them their final game of the season with the big L for them and their fans. So come back to Anaheim and we'll talk about that.
Yeah, I'm with you. The first game was like, whatever. I mean, they were in it, but not really. Then the second game they got behind. That Camp Fowler goal was awesome. Makes a little nifty move, and he scores. Lifts the Ducks in that one. You also had Byfield. He made his debut for the Kings in this game. He had 4 shots on net. Did not score. Did play almost 18 minutes, so he was out there quite a lot. He did play in the next couple games as well in these 2. But... these first 2 games, the Ducks are in the split on the road. I really didn't think, of the 6 periods, I didn't think that they played that well. And a lot of them. I mean, they were really getting dominated in that second period against the Kings in the second game. And the fact that they were able to come out and rally and get a couple goals and make it 2-2 was huge. So that's how it played out in those 2 games. And not a lot of craziness really. If you look at these games, we know both these teams aren't playing for the playoffs and whatnot, but not really a lot of animosity, not like it used to be. not really going at each other, which, I mean, not that it wasn't expected, but, they just weren't really at each other. So it's just kind of but like you said, the Ducks got that comeback win, which was nice. The Ducks were going to come home and play those 2 games again against the Kings, right? They keep having this battle of LA or battle of SoCal, the freeway face-off for this week. And before we could even get into those games, we had Ryan Miller officially announced his retirement. He actually had a Zoom press conference, which I was able to get in on, which was awesome. And he finally, decided to retire and then make the announcement and everything. And it was kind of interesting. Some people thought maybe he would wait till the end of the season, but instead he did it at this point. The Ducks then said that he would start in that final home game on Saturday, which we went to. And man, I mean, if you have tissue or Kleenex, I would grab it, because when you watch that video of him, which they posted several hours later after the initial conference that I was at, I mean, man, he couldn't even get out the words in the beginning, like, understandably. I mean, he's just very, very appreciative of everybody in his family. His brother was on there asking him questions. Yeah, it was just very emotional. You had Eric Stevens was in the interview, Guy, Dan Wood, Steve Carroll, Ken French, were all on there. And I basically transcribed what Miller said down in text, which is a pain in the butt if you don't know how that works, but I put it in there and put it in the article. It should be, I'd say, 95% accurate. Maybe I missed a little something in there, but it was interesting. I was glad that he made the announcement at this point, because I think he wanted the send-off, and he was talking about it in there that he kind of wanted to get that pressure off his chest. I think he had all that emotion built in. It was very difficult for him to start it, the press conference, and I think that for him able to go out there and thank everybody the way that he wanted to do it, I think was very huge.
Yeah, Miller is probably one of my favorite all-time goalies. I followed his career in Buffalo. I remember I had this oil painting of Miller when he was during the first that Winter Classic he was at. A nice little oil painting I had hung up. When I went to the Army, I decided to give it to one of my buddies, like one of my best friends. He was a goaltender for my beer league team, but he was like one of my best friends too, and he was there for me. He got me. He pretty much got my head straight and kept me on a straight path, even though I wasn't having that good of a time in life. And there's could have been a fork in the road where I could have been in trouble, gotten in some trouble, where I probably wouldn't have had the opportunity to go to the military and do any of that. But he was always there for me, so I gave him that send-off gift for that. So I always had that emotional attachment to Miller, but everything he's done as an American goalie. Like, goalie is my favorite position in hockey. I love that position. I wanted to be a goaltender growing up when I was playing youth hockey. I tried it a few times. I got lit up and just quit. And I'm a terrible goalie. I have good reflexes, but for some reason when I put all the pads on, I just get super nervous because I want to just perform at my best and not let anything go by. And I just kind of let myself get into my own head. That's what makes me a bad goalie, but it's good him announcing his retirement at his time. It's not one of those situations where he can't find a suitor, he can't find a team, or he's that third, maybe fourth goalie, or spent some time in the AHL. He was specifically ready. He came back. It's kind of just on his terms now, and he's ready. He accomplished everything he feels like he has to accomplish in his heart. So it was really good. And Mike, I can't thank you enough. You brought me to the perfect game. I got to see his last home game. I got to watch him live once this season before never seeing him again. So that was actually good to be there and watch him in that game, that last game too. So I wish him all the best. I know he's not done with hockey. I know he'll have some kind of role in hockey moving forward. So I wish him all the best, him and his wife and his family. Thank you for everything he's done, especially on that almost winning the gold medal. He kept the USA into that game. Unfortunately, Canada took it. Crosby, boo sometimes, but he's a hell of a goalie, and I just so many good memories and so many good plays, and it's just like just amazing for him. I'm so happy for him, and I'm really excited and happy that he got to put on an Anaheim Ducks sweater, and I got to watch him play for the Ducks, and I got to watch him live at Honda Center, especially his last game at Honda Center.
Yeah, the funny thing about those games, too, is when those tickets came up, the Ducks said, hey, you can buy tickets for the last 5 games. And I was kind of like, okay, should I do it or not? I already paid for my season tickets for next year. And basically, I could have used some of that money to buy the tickets. I could have put up other money. And I'll be honest, I was kind of 50-50. I mean, don't get me wrong. You all know I love the Ducks to death. But as far as going to the games, I was kind of like, should I not? And then I ended up, doing that. And I even got some extra ones that we gave away as well. And that was not knowing what was going to happen. At that time, we pretty much knew that Miller was going to retire. But there was no official announcement. We didn't know exactly what his last game was going to be. And then it was weird. It all worked out, too, because my wife was doing some stuff with her friends that night, and actually both nights, Friday and Saturday. So I was like, okay, well, I got to hit up Eddie, obviously, and to go to those games. And we got disappointed on Friday on that game, right? The Ducks were up 1-0. We really thought that they had that game and that they were going to win. And, of course, the Kings get 2 late goals in there on the Ducks. Kind of reminded me of the damn playoffs and the way things went. I don't even want to go into it, but you all know what I'm talking about. So, back when yes, the Kings won some shiny metal object, apparently, twice. But that's what that game on Friday reminded me of. The Ducks had that game. I thought they were going to win it. They got those last 2 goals in the last 5 minutes of the game. Whatever, kind of ruined it. But then you come back on Saturday. Again, you and I are there. And the Ducks just destroyed the Kings in this game. Zegras with a beautiful goal early in that one. Even our boy Delorier, which a lot of people are, maybe 50-50 on him. I don't really care. I still like Delorier. And the Ducks, jumped out to a 4-0 lead and ended up blowing out the Kings. The only thing that I guess would have made that night more perfect, Eddie, was a shutout. But the Ducks ended up beating LA 6-2 for Miller in his final game at Honda Center.
Yeah, that was fun. I think that those 2 days for me were just perfect. It was a perfect weekend. I got to see my buddy again. I got to see you. That was just a spark right there at itself. And then seeing live hockey. I'm not going to lie, this season has been tough on me. The gym, that really takes a lot out of me, and then these double workouts and really focused on my goal. I haven't really had time to sit there and unwind at times and relax. So just being at the live game, hanging out with you, Mike, it felt good. It felt like a sense of normalcy again. And I like that. It was just, I can't even describe the feeling it was to see a live game. And then going to that 2-1 loss, they played well. They didn't play that bad. I was expecting a little bit more physicality in the fights, but that didn't obviously happen. I know the game's transitioning to a kind of a new style of game. I wish I would have saw a little bit more of that. We did get on the Jumbotron. That was kind of cool. Shout out to our buddy Chad for that. We appreciate that. That was my first time ever being on the Jumbotron. And of course, during intermission, I think I'm tweeting something out on DucksNPucks, so I'm not on Tinder, which Mike joked about. But it was just a fun experience, both games, despite that loss. And that last game, it was just perfect. I think it was just perfect, a perfect way. I was so energized. I played hockey 3 games before that, so I should have probably been tired and out of it. But no, it was just motivating. It was uplifting. It was fun. I got to hang out with you before the game. We got to have lunch. See Miller get that final win. The Ducks blowing him out. I won the $100 bet. That's awesome. And I kept that $100 to buy drinks for this weekend, but my buddies didn't let me buy any drinks this weekend, so I still have that $100 I can spend. But it was just an overall, those 2 days, it was great. It was fun. And I really wish that blowout to the Kings was the Ducks' final game, because that would have been a beautiful game to go out. Okay, Ducks had a bad season, but they finished it on this one. But at least they finished it at their homestand on beating the Kings in that big blowout right there. So that's just great. It was a good win for the fans, especially the fans in attendance. A lot of them haven't seen a win at all because the Ducks just been playing terrible. I was impressed with seeing Fleury skate live. He's a big kid, but but he skates phenomenal. I think he's going to have a bright future, and I hopefully it just transitions to a consistent top 4, if not top pairing defenseman, because the way he skates is just tremendous.
Yeah, and we'll talk about him a little bit later in the show. We'll touch on the expansion draft again, though we will have a whole show on that as well. But you're right. The way he looked was great in those 2 games, seeing him live and in person and whatnot. And, we got some love, too. Like you said, we ended up on the Jumbotron. I don't know if I've ever been on it since 1993, going to all the games. I don't remember a time, or maybe if I did, I didn't see it. So that was pretty cool. We had people come up on Friday's game and say a couple things to us, shaking our hands, appreciative of the stuff that we do. And, it's just awesome. It was a good experience. Even though they lost at the last second, I thought the Ducks deserved to win that game like you talked about. And yes, beating the Kings in that last home game, I wish that was the final game of the season. I know we'll get to St. Louis and Minnesota in a minute, but I was good with that. I was like, you know what, Eddie, we could just forfeit the next 4 games and hopefully end up with the first overall chance of winning the draft lottery, which we all know that didn't happen. We'll go into that too, but that's how I felt after that game. I was like, you know what, we could just end the season right now, Eddie. So I think you had a really good point there.
Yeah, and I had to drive home all depressed because Ducks lost again. That's what I hate going to games is go to games and you drive home pissed off because they lost. I live about 20, maybe 30 minutes away. We'll say 30 minutes away. So I'm just driving there. I'm just thinking like, okay, a Duck should have done this. They should have done that. Or I'd rather drive home. It's like, oh, I got to see this. I got to see that. So that last game was just great. Like you said, Mike, they should have forfeit the rest of the games. Maybe minus like that second Blues game for Bacchus, but that probably should have forfeited the rest of the games. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, that's just how I felt. It was just like, it was a great feeling. You saw him come out on the ice with his wife and his son, all the Ducks players at the end. We got lucky. We got to see it and take some photos and whatnot. We posted all those on social media. And, I mean, there wasn't a dry eye in the house. I don't know how you can't sit there and look at this guy who's, 796 wins as an American goaltender in the NHL, the most, and just not be overcome with the emotion. The photos that they put up on the big screen, seeing everything there, like, everything just felt right in the world at that moment, Eddie.
I couldn't agree more. I got a little emotional. I felt my heart tingling a little bit just watching it. Just taking it in. Had to put my phone down and stop recording for a little bit just to take it all in. Even though I was in the 300 level, I was far away from him, but it was just I was close enough where I can feel the energy, and I liked it. I loved it. It was just it's a memory I'm never gonna forget in my life, and I'm glad I was there for it.
What it reminded me of too was some people I saw talking about this was when Teemu was out there on the ice for his final regular season game against the Avalanche and pulled Jaguar out in the ice. And like, I'm not going to compare the two. Like, that's a hard one to say, like, oh, this one's whatever. But that's how I felt, Eddie, when Teemu grabbed Jaguar and pulled him out on the ice for that game. I lost my shit. And you and I, same thing with this game with Miller. Dude, I seriously, I couldn't hold it back, and that's why we love this game.
Oh yeah, I remember I was at the bar in Colorado it's Lonnie's last regular season game, and I was tearing up at the bar. I didn't care. It's like, and I don't even think people around me at the bar gave a shit. They all knew what I was watching, so it's like they can kind of relate to watching their favorite idol. And I tell my buddy that all the time. He was a big Kobe fan, and when Kobe passed away, he got really emotional, and he understands like that emotion I have for Solani, the player that I grew up watching and had those experiences with. I got to hang out with him in his restaurant or see them at those practices time in and time out. It's just sports. Sports is something awesome. Sports gets you out of your element of reality and it puts you in just something better. I don't even know how to explain it. I think you guys listening feel the same way about sports. You have your guys' players, your guys' games, you feel the same way, so you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I agree. Especially with everything going on in the world right now, it's definitely a welcomed distraction to what's going on. And so the Ducks, talking about more stuff, more emotion. They go into St. Louis. They played these two games. Backus, he started in St. Louis, was there for a long time at the beginning of his season. The Ducks lose the first game. Getzlaf did have a goal in this one. He actually got the puck off a turnover, so they were joking, saying how he had to shoot the puck, and he scored. But the Blues ended up winning that game. Game 2, Backus got in there. Again, seeing the fans salute him. The Ducks came back and won this game. They went to a shootout. Terry with just a straight-up badass goal to win it for them. And then the players congratulating Backus at the end. It's just another tear-jerker type moment. I don't know how you don't look at that and just appreciate this sport and everything involved. But, the Ducks split these two games. Like we said, didn't really play well in the first one against the Blues. The second one was just, wow. It was a lot going on. You also had Comtois getting in a fight. He's been getting in some battles, a couple times during this season. And that game had a little bit of everything in it, Eddie. And I just don't know. With that, obviously we're at home watching that one. I didn't have a drive for that one either.
Yeah, you forgot to talk about that one other fight too that happened with the Ducks and Blues game with the fans fighting each other. I think it was probably the first time we've seen a Ducks fan fight this season. So it was kind of funny to see. I don't know what happened. I wasn't there. I'm not going to speculate on. It's kind of a he said, she said thing. But I mean, come on, at least have some composure. You're fighting in an arena. Obviously, there's alcohol involved when things like that happen. It's been limited this season. Regardless who started it, you could always just walk away, turn the other cheek. It's just there's no reason for that. It makes the sport look bad. It makes you look bad. So shame on the Blues fan, shame on the Ducks fan. I apologize if you're a listener, but I'm just saying it how it is. I don't hold back, and I speak the truth, and that's just my personal opinion. But I mean, we have to be better. I've been in situations like that where I've had to walk away from things where I didn't want to. Normally, I probably wouldn't have, but it's just, come on. Now you're on video. It's done with. We're going to talk about it because it happened, and what we do, we talk about what's going on. And there hasn't been that many fights with the Ducks players, so we got to talk about if the fans want to throw out and throw blows. But hey, you know what? I probably ranked that fan fight for that Ducks fan as probably one of my top favorite fights of this season from the Ducks, or someone wearing a Ducks jersey. So that was actually pretty cool. As far as Backus, true professional animal lover too. So obviously I'm gonna love him even more. Yeah, he played 965 games, I believe, this season. He was short of that 1,000. I really was hoping he would get to that 1,000th game. I said it before on numerous shows that I wish the Ducks would have played him more. There was nothing really to lose. You just gain from having that experience and that leadership on the ice. But I wish him all the best, too. If he decides he wants to try to give it another go next season, I don't think so. But that's still a possibility because he hasn't really officially said it was going to be it. Really, it's not like Ryan Miller did. But regardless, it was good to have him in a Ducks jersey. It was good to have him mentoring our players, especially we have a lot of young players coming up that we can build a team around. So having someone like that can play that game, that two-way style, and that has that leadership ability, it was an honor to have him wear a Ducks jersey.
I agree 100%. It's all about the mentoring, bringing them in and helping these younger guys, with their game and giving them some, direction and whatnot. And just another tearjerker, with the things that happened. There was a scary moment, too, in these games. We had Fowler getting knocked out in the first game with a collision at the ice. There was no real call on that or anything. We'll definitely go into player safety a little bit later on the show. But he was able to come back and then play in that second game. And then Terry with just a sweet move to get the Ducks the win. So, all in all, good thing, Eddie, for both Miller and Backus because you had them win at home for Miller, and then you had them win for Backus, back in St. Louis where he started his career. So at least those two things went well for both of them. And then, of course, the Ducks go play Minnesota, and they lose both those games 4-3 in overtime. I'll talk about those. Miller did play the last game of the NHL season, and the Ducks did rally, but they came up short in that one, unfortunately. But they did come back again. They were down by 2 goals in that last game of the season. They came back late in that first game, too, against Minnesota, and then lost right away in overtime. We did see Henrique and Manson come back finally. As we talked about, Henrique had the COVID protocol back at the beginning of the 4 games of the Kings. Manson, he got knocked out. If you remember, he got in that fight with Lemieux and was out. So he was able to finally come back and play in these last couple games. So they were exciting, these last 2 games, but the Ducks came up short in both of them, Eddie.
Yeah, you know what's funny about that last game of the season? That was the first hockey game I've watched all season while enjoying a beverage, an alcoholic nature of beverage or whatever. So that was actually kind of fun to sit back and actually have a beer and watch the game. My buddy watched some of the game with me, but I really thought they were going to get that win. They rallied back. They came back fired up, and they came back by scoring those goals. So it's like, okay, now we're going to get them going into overtime. They're fired up for Miller. Let's go ahead and get that. And boom, Minnesota wins. Like, damn it. But you know what? It was still a good game. I'm glad they actually had that fire, and they were able to come back and give Miller that extra little bit of hockey left so he could just take it all in and play that extra minutes. Fortunately, it didn't work out in the Ducks' favor. Go figure. But it was really classy, and I can't stand Minnesota. You guys listening, any new listeners, I hate Minnesota more than I hate LA. But it was classy of them to acknowledge Miller, and classy for their fans to be everyone up, just giving him the respect that he deserves. So that was good to see. I'm looking forward to seeing this team. We have a new first line we'll talk about later, but it seems like our young guns and our young generation are really feeling it, really stepping up, and really getting into their groove and becoming more comfortable being at the NHL level. So I'm taking that as a win for the Ducks. So hopefully they can build off that, and hopefully Miller is satisfied with the last career start of his NHL career, especially getting some bonus hockey. Just go figure.
I know, I had mixed emotion to it that last game because, like you said, I was kind of like, oh man, after we went to the game at Honda Center, it was the final one of the regular season at home, at least. I was like, okay, I'm good. I don't need anything else. And then I was like, okay, St. Louis and Backus, okay, the second game. All right, I'm good now. And then these 2 games against Minnesota, I'm like, okay, they lost the first one, went to overtime, they lost right away, whatever. Second one, they come back, Comtois scores again. He's leading the team, 16 goals, for the season. Zegras had an awesome goal in that game too, just a total laser. And I thought, okay, they'll win this one in overtime for him to finish the season, and they didn't. It's unfortunate the way it finished there in Minnesota. Good to see them fight back. And then, man, when you see Miller hugging his parents at the end of this game, I think it was Bally Sports that put out the video first. Oh my God, man! I just like losing it, man. So many tear jerker moments. And these last 2 weeks of the Ducks, I don't know how you sit there and just don't lose it. I mean, if you love this sport, and even like you said, you can't stand Minnesota, and they did a tribute to Miller too. I mean, that's the thing. Like, it's just like the Kings. We don't like them, right? They went and shook Miller's hand at the end of that game at Honda Center. You saw Quick, who, again, we can't stand him, but, he is out there with Miller too, another American goalie. And, I mean, you have to sit there and take yourself out of those rivalries. I know it's hard, but, I mean, the stuff that happened these last 2 weeks, Eddie, with, I don't know. It's just something, it's just tough. I mean, with all the Temu stuff, right? And then bringing back Korea and Niedermeyer with their banner things. I don't know, man. I had a hard time this week keeping a dry eye. That's all I can say, and I just love the sport.
Yeah, it just makes you proud to be a hockey fan. Just that respect they have for one another, especially the Kings. Like, I don't have really that big of an issue with the Kings. I mean, some of their fans are annoying, but I grew up with mostly their fans because like a lot of them are my friends, my teammates, my family members. So I'm like kind of always the odd man out. Even like bars I used to go to when I was drinking more before, it's like they're all Kings fans, so they all give me crap. But it's just fun. It's a fun environment. The Kings organization, they always been a class act. When they honored Solani and his farewell tour, they gave him that surfboard. Them staying on the ice, it's not something they felt like they had to do. It's something that they wanted to do. I think Kopitar is a tremendous leader for them, and Dustin Brown, even though he doesn't have that captaincy anymore, I think he still exempts that leadership role. It's just good for Southern California hockey to have two class act teams, to have two strong captains and Getzlaf and Kopitar. It's just good to see rivals like that. They can have that respect for each other. It's just with everything that goes on in the world and society and all the like negativity you see day in and day out. You see two rivals that have been heated rivals for many seasons can come together and show that same respect. So I think that's something great. It's awesome. It's one of the other millions of reasons why I absolutely love this sport, and I can't even describe more how much I love this sport. But like those are the reasons why I love it.
Yeah, I mean, those moments, like you said, especially now. I mean, like you said, so many things going on, so many people, unfortunately, divided about certain topics, which we're not going to go into. And you look at this, you got these guys out there on ice, battling it out, doing all these things, some rivalries out there as well, and they're able to, celebrate Miller's career and Backus's career. It's just amazing. It's amazing. So, I mean, it's an emotional finish for the Ducks season. Very emotional finish. And, we'll shift kind of gears here and, kind of what's next for the Ducks, right? The season's over. What's going to happen? Well, the Ducks ended up being the second worst team in the NHL. So they have the second best odds to win the draft lottery. And I put out this tweet, and it kind of blew up after that last game when I said, hey, that's where the Ducks are at. Under the new rules, they could end up first or second, third, or fourth. Knowing the league, they'll probably end up fourth, and everyone blew up. That one got a lot of attention. But if you remember, we talked about the draft lottery last time, and Eddie and I pretty much blew it up, and we were really upset last summer when they did it and went off on it. So there's some rule changes. What they basically are doing this time around is there's only going to be 2 drawings. So that's why the Ducks being at second, the worst that they could do is fourth, which is why I joked. I'm like, oh, they're going to end up fourth. Well, the percentages do say they will end up fourth, unfortunately. They have a 13.5% chance to get the first pick, 13% for second, 29 for third, and then 44.5% chance of getting the fourth pick. So it's just not looking good. It's looking like the third or fourth pick on there, but we joked about that. And then coming for the next draft lottery in 2022, they won't allow teams to move up more than 10 spots. That was a huge criticism by Eddie and I, where you had all these teams way out there, ended up being first, second, or third. And then you also can't have a team win twice in a 5-year period. So some pretty interesting stuff there, Eddie. I don't know. I talked to Thomas a little bit about this. I don't know. I'm not as excited about the draft lottery after talking to him. But what do you think? I mean, a lot of these minor league teams haven't played, or they played shortened seasons. So it's kind of hard to evaluate the players. I mean, it's good that the Ducks are going to be high, right? First to fourth. But what do you think as far as the Ducks' chances of, and who they're going to get in this draft lottery?
Yeah, that's going to be a hard one. I haven't really dived down too much on the picks right now. I'm waiting for Thomas to throw his input in there so I can do my own independent research. But we're guaranteed a good pick. We haven't. Second overall pick was in 2005 when we picked Bobby Ryan, and that was just strictly done by lottery because that was after the lockout season. hopefully, obviously, I want the first overall, and we have a good chance at getting the first overall, even though there's a lower percentage because the last few seasons, the dead last team didn't really receive the first overall. You can go and ask the Red Wings what happened to them last season. They got kind of screwed out of that. I'd be happy with a top 2. Anything less than that, I'm going to be bummed out. But regardless of these players not really playing, or we haven't really can see them and see with their potential, they're still good hockey players and they can still develop and be superstars. So having that top pick is going to be good for the Ducks. And worst comes to worst, it can be used as trade bait, a bargaining tool. You can trade that first, second, third, fourth overall pick for a roster player that can pay dividends and help to accelerate the Ducks, and you can help build off the team off that. Obviously, we have a player like Zegras who's going to be a superstar, is going to be our number one player. He likes to, she likes to pass the puck. He's kind of a pass first kind of guy. It'd be great to have someone that can bring in that can finish off that and kind of score those goals that were much needed goals. So I think it's a win-win for the Ducks regardless. Just hopefully we get the first. If not, I'll be shooting for a top 2.
Yeah, for me, if we get third, I won't lose my mind. I mean, I won't be happy. I won't lose my mind. If we get fourth, I'm going to be like, really? I'm going to be annoyed. But I'm with you. And just so you guys know, we're going to have some other shows after this one talking about the expansion draft lottery, all those kind of things, free agency and all that. So we're not going to cover too much of that in this show. We're just kind of recapping the end of the season and kind of looking forward a little bit to things that are going on. The draft lottery is scheduled for June 2nd, tentative, right? Because the way the world is right now. Entry draft, July 23rd, 24th. So keep those dates in the back of your mind. Like I said, tentative. So the thing to look forward to with the Ducks now is really the goals. I mean, the Ducks sent a whole bunch of players down to them. It's not really far, right? They went from Anaheim to Irvine, the way this season worked out. But Zegras, Drysdale, Agazino, Benoit, Leterrier, Mahura, and then both the Carrick brothers all went to the goals. Sam had to pass through waivers, which he cleared. So they're going to be down there playing the rest of the season, and then they have their playoffs, which have been modified. There is no Calder Cup, which that's unfortunate. What's going to happen is each division is going to do their own thing. For the goals in their division, they're going to have a play-in round at Great Park Ice on May 18th. Fourth place is going to play 7th, 5th against 6th. Then the winners are going to play each other on the 19th. That will be the 4th seed. 4th seed will then play the 1st, and then 2nd and 3rd. They'll have a 3-game series, and then those winners will play in the championship for the division. So it's a little bit modified, but hey, it's a little bit more hockey you get to watch. Of course, Zegras and Drysdale being the big names that everybody wants to see. So at least there's a little bit more hockey, Eddie. I mean, yes, the Ducks are gone, but you can watch them and see how they do, in the AHL for at least the next month or so.
Yeah, I can still watch the Avalanche too and watch NHL. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun playoffs. I'm looking forward to next season, though. I'm looking forward to everything going back to normal. I miss it, and hopefully I can attend more games, bearing nothing goes wrong or anything like that. So just go goals in this kind of weird no Calder Cup kind of division playoff kind of thing. But hey, you know what? More hockey, a better, more development for these guys. I know Zegras and Drysdale are probably going to tear it up. They had that motivation. I was seriously impressed with Drysdale. Like I said before in numerous podcasts before, that I thought he would need another year of development before, but he just looks amazing. He looks great. I love the way he skates, his head up all the time. He just thinks outside the box. He doesn't panic. He doesn't stress out. He's a solid player. I love watching him play. It's fun. It's fun watching both of them play. It's going to be an exciting future for the Ducks, especially when they start building the team off of these two players and seeing what they can do. They just got their feet wet this season. The little small sample size. They're both eligible to be Calder Trophy participants next season. So I really look for pretty much a friendly rivalry between these two players to step up their game and be those top players that the Ducks know they could be, and obviously all the fans watching know they can be.
Yeah, I mean, you got to watch those games if you can. If you don't have the AHL TV, I would check it out and try and get that. If you can't watch it, but yeah, for us, really after this, it's next season, right? I mean, that's what we're going to look at. We got a lot of questions about that. We're going to dive into actually right now, but right before I mention that. David Backes was nominated for the Bill Masterson Trophy. Each team nominates one, and that's for the player that they recognize as being the sportsmanship, dedication to hockey, and exemplifies perseverance. So I thought that was pretty cool, Eddie, that the Ducks ended up having him be the nominee, given all the stuff that happened this season, his mentorship, and whether or not it's his last season, which it looks like. But I thought that was cool for him to be nominated. I don't know if he'll win, but I think he was definitely deserving of having that recognition. Oh,
yeah, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't think of another player better to go and nominate that for. So hopefully he wins it, knowing how the league is. We'll probably get overlooked, as we usually do. Another player I wanted to throw out there too, just because I think he had a phenomenal season. He really stepped up to the plate and is a goaltender, so I like him, even though he was a former Kings player too. But Jack Campbell, when he got drafted by Dallas, it was kind of one of those things where you didn't really know what he was going to be. People wrote him off. He wasn't gonna be that player. But he just stuck with it. He just stuck with his game, and he ended up having some success and took over that role when Anderson got hurt and went on a big tear for them. I think he's been one of their best players. So I want to give a shout-out to that, especially a respect for a fellow goaltender. Other mentions, too, that are kind of nominal are Corey Perry from the Ducks. I wouldn't mind seeing him winning that at all. He's had some success in Montreal, and he's just being his typical self, the warm that everyone calls him, and playing some good hockey. Fleury, I think Fleury is another one that people probably could rally behind and really accept the fact of him winning. And another player that I'll end it off with is Zdeno Chara. Obviously, he's a legend in the game. He's still going strong. He can still play the game at a decent level. He's not the player he was before. He's still that scary, big monster machine, that gentle giant. But congratulations to everyone regardless. If Backes wins, that'd be freaking amazing. That'd be awesome. That'd be great. But congratulations to everyone, and may the best person and most deserving person win.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you. I don't know if Backes will get in there, but like you said, we'll talk about the league too in a little bit. And we talked about an expansion draft lottery, or excuse me, and just the regular draft lottery getting boned. So I will probably get boned here too. So we'll see what happens. I don't think he's going to win it, but yeah, whoever they pick, congratulations to them. But as far as this team goes moving forward, you have to look at what are they going to do. We had a lot of questions about the veterans and what's going to happen in the offseason. Of course, the big question is whether or not Getzlaf will be back. That's what a lot of people ask. We had THOLL_15 on Instagram asked that. Also, Rob JPK 1990 asked that, and then we had Chad Lowry asked, what kind of contract would he sign. So the word is right now is that Getzlaf is going to come back to Anaheim. That's the word as of today. Could it change in the summer? Maybe. But the plan is for him to come back, sign a contract with the Ducks. As far as the length, I would think, as Chad asked, I would think 1 to 2 years would be in that ballpark. And I think, that he will be back. We know Miller's going to retire. Backes hasn't announced that he's going to retire, but he's probably going to be done as well. And we'll dive into some other stuff too. And then we also had Rosca David. He asked about Miller as a goaltending coach, something you kind of talked about as if Miller was going to do some other things. I think that'd be a great idea. I don't know if he will, but that's kind of where we're at, Eddie. I think that looking at this, you take Backes and Getzlaf off, Backes and Miller off of the roster, and then that would leave Getzlaf coming back as of right now.
Yeah, I can see Getzlaf coming back. He still has some. I know he's probably the type of player that doesn't really reflect on personal goals and personal records, but I think in the back of his mind, it's important to him. I think having him back, it helps the Ducks. He obviously, he said he's not going to be that player he was before, that we all remember him for, but he still has a lot to offer, a lot to give, especially that leadership role and that mentorship. We need someone like that. I think Getzlaf, and I'm not just speaking this as a Ducks fan, but I'm saying it as it's just a hockey fan. I think he's one of the best captains in the league. So having him back, and I definitely think he'll be back. As far as the contract length, don't be expecting anything more than 1 year. I think it's going to be a 1 year deal. I honestly think after he comes back for one more season, I think it'll be it for him. I'm not sure how long this rebuild's going to take, but I can't see the Ducks going out for a Stanley Cup within the next 2 seasons, and I'm not sure if he wants to kind of wait around and play that extra hockey when he's at the tail end of his career. And he shouldn't have to. He doesn't deserve that. He's proved everything he has. He's given everything he can to the Ducks. So I think he deserves that time to be with his family and with his children and kind of enjoy life away from hockey. Would Getzlaf be done with the Anaheim Ducks permanently after that? I don't think so. I think he'll still have a role with the organization. He's too valuable. But as far as the contract term, 1 year, I think it would be fair to say maybe 3.5. 3.4 in that range for the year.
Yeah, I think if I'm with you, 1 year, maybe 2 years max. So that's what I would look at. Maybe he pulls the Tamu thing and does 1 year and then maybe see how it goes after that. So we'll see. But I would expect him to be back from what I'm hearing, at least for one more season. So the other issue too, a lot of you blew us up with these fan questions. Oh my God, I think we get blown up with this, almost daily. But it's not just the roster, but what about management? What are the Ducks going to do with the coach? What are they going to do with the GM? I'm not even going to answer all the individual questions because there's so many of them on here about Eakins and Murray. And, are they going to be gone next season? Are they going to be here next season? When is the ownership? One of the questions from Doug here. When is the ownership going to get rid of Murray? We had another guy, Smoked and Bandit. I was laughing. He says, well, what time on Monday can we expect both of them to be released? Well, we're recording this on Monday and they're still here. So obviously that didn't go through, right?
Well, what? Smoke and Bandit, if they were going to be if they were both going to be gone on Monday, it'd be right after we set this show out for production, right after we record, because for some reason, every time we record and it gets sent out, there's some kind of Ducks news that comes right after it. So if that's going to happen anytime today, it's going to be after we're done recording this show.
Dude, I swear, that's been it never fails. We'll post a show like this. We're recording it later on Monday. We put it out the next day, and then there'll be something. There'll be a trade or something crazy happens. So exactly. I just laugh at that. But what I can tell you is this. Kind of talking to some people, kind of the word on the street, things I've heard a little bit lately is that the problem here is that the players get along well with Eakins. It's the players don't get along with Murray. That's the issue. Murray's the problem. So whether or not he's going to be gone or not, I don't see it happening. I don't, because the problem with that is the owners put too much faith in Murray. That's what it comes down to. I think we talked about this on some of the other podcasts before, but the owners are great people. Don't get me wrong. They've done a lot of stuff to help the community. They, like we said, during the lockdowns, keeping people, at work and paying people and all these things. Don't get me wrong. But the problem with all this is that they put a lot of faith into Murray, and Murray doesn't put that same faith in Eakins. So that's the issue we're having right now. So will they do anything about it? I don't think so. Will they let his contract run out and bring someone else in? I think that's the more likely scenario. I would hope that would happen, but I don't know. I don't know if they will. It's just unfortunate. The stuff that I'm hearing is that Murray's a big issue. For some reason, he can't let Dallas run the team he wants to, the way he wants to. It's tough. I mean, yes, we've talked about the lineup optimization, the things that we don't like, and how the team could have been at least icing a better team this season, right? That was a big problem. But this is some of the issues that we have going into next season. We have more questions here, and we'll talk about the lineup and how we can do some things to fix the lineup and maybe get the Ducks going in the right direction next season. But it's a big problem. I mean, what are you going to do? You have him there, and he's running the show, and from what I'm hearing, he's not letting Akins do necessarily all the starting lineup things that he wants to do. Obviously, Akins makes the calls during the games, but Murray's still running the show, basically, and that's where we're at. So until that changes, I don't know. It's going to be tough sledding for the Ducks. We'll talk about the lineup here in a minute, but it's going to be interesting. And part of this, too, is if this wasn't an issue, we wouldn't be getting all these fan questions. I can tell you right now, we got almost 10 fan questions on this alone for this show. People aren't dumb. You guys are all smart. You've watched this team. You know what's going on. You know that there's stuff going on. We know that there's stuff going on. So, I don't know. We'll talk about the lineup. I think there's things that we can do, Eddie. But as far as the management situation and trying to fix it and get Murray out, I don't see him being gone unless his contract runs out and then the Samuelis decide to bring someone else in, Eddie.
Yep, I agree. And it's unfortunate. And yes, we got all these about 10 fan questions. We probably get anywhere from 7 to 10 fan questions every show about this. I'm pretty sure, Mike, you get personal DMs as well as I do about this. We get people tagging the page DucksNPucks about this. The people I follow, when I scroll down Twitter, I see your issues with this, and I agree with you. And like Mike said, I agree. These fans, Ducks fans, aren't stupid. They're really keen to see what's going on. They see the bigger picture. It's not just emotion when the Ducks lose. They want to blame someone. No, there's a lot of them that can sit there and kind of break it down, kind of analytical, and kind of see what's going on. And it seems like all the roads and all the biggest issues that's going on with the Ducks organization leads to Murray. And I'm not trying to like bash the owners or bash anything. It's not working out. It's not working, and something has to change. This is a product on the ice. This is a business, and that business has to thrive for anything to be successful. You guys working your jobs, my job, if I go to work and I'm not performing, or if I'm calling off, or it's not working out in my business and I'm causing my companies and their owners to lose money, I'm going to be fired. I'm not going to have a job. They're going to bring in someone that can capitalize and make the most profit for them. Murray's just content with being mediocre. He's just content with just throwing out big fancy words or feel-good words that are going to make everyone feel better. I think Ducks fans had enough of it, and they're not stupid anymore, and they're not going to fall for his kind of, I want to say, I guess not political, but I guess his politician kind of words. It tell you everything you want to hear, and it just doesn't really translate with actions. And you know what? I think it's like I said it before. I'll say it now. I'll say it then. I'll say it for the next shows we're going to do. I'll go and say it to myself. I'll tweet it later or whatever. Murray needs to go. It's done with him with the Ducks. We have to get rid of him. We have to be a better team. It's not fair for the fans. It's not fair for the players. It's not fair. It's just... There's so many things that are going to be happening for the Ducks. They're having the brand new block thing they're going to do. We have some exciting prospects. We're going to get a top draft pick this season. We have to start trending in the right direction. We have to get back to winning. That is a standard that we have in Anaheim that we had before. We have to get to that standard again. I don't know why. It's just Murray doesn't realize that, or someone else that is higher, the owners or anyone, doesn't see that he is the biggest issue. But I don't know. Maybe he likes to be just in that control position. There's going to be another election for the governor of California. If he wants to ruin something else, he can probably run for governor in California. I don't know, and I don't care. I'm getting frustrated having to deal with Murray, and I'm not frustrated with your guys' questions at all. I appreciate it. I love these questions. Keep firing them. And you know what? Next podcast, send 10 more questions of the same thing, because we want to talk about this, because you guys are obviously feeling this too. But it's just, I'm sorry to rant. I'm frustrated. It's time to go. I want to see this team be better, and I think next season it's not going to be as good as it could be if we have Murray still running this team, because it's not working out. We need someone better. We need someone different. We need someone that's going to get things done and get Ducks to winning again and get the culture in Anaheim that happy in a happy work environment, because a happy players will equal happy and more relaxed team and do something better on the ice.
All I'm gonna say is amen, dude.
My bad, I got too fired up, but I'm so frustrated.
No, not at all. I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, from everything that we've seen, from, like you said, people messaging us, these questions we get on the show all the time, that's where we're at. I even had one guy, it was funny, I was laughing. I was talking to a loyal listener, and he was like, do you think that you've like kind of pissed off the Ducks with some of the stuff that you've said on the show this year? And I'm like, you know what, man? I've pissed them off a long time ago. That ship has sailed. I told them, I go, you know what? They've listened to my show. They think that this show is too fan-based. Well, you know what? I do this show for you, the fans that listen out there. I don't make money off all this stuff. I don't. I have another job. I'm serious. I do this for fun. I do it for the fact that the interaction with people. I've made a lot of good friendships. Eddie's been one. A lot of other good friends that I've just made throughout these years. And I have fun doing this. And I want to be real. I'd rather be real on this show than be fake. I'm not going to sit here and be a cheerleader and tell you, that this team, everything is rah, fantastic, and blow, rainbows and unicorns up your you-know-what. Because that's not what we do on this show. So I don't really care what they think of me over there, as far as people that look at the show, admin type people. And I'm not talking about the players and stuff like that. I have good relationship with a lot of the players and different people that work for the team. But there's certain people there that we talk about this stuff and they get upset. Well, that's fine. I know you work for the team. You can't talk about these things. I get it. Well, guess what? I can. And I'm not going to hold back. So, and neither are you, Eddie. I think you don't hold back shit. I think you go off more than I do.
No, I hold back a lot. But, I hold back a lot. It's like some of you that been in the military, you know exactly what I'm talking about and how we talk in the military. So I had to hold back. I hold back probably, I want to say 70% of the time. But when it comes to things like this, and like when things go in my head, I just don't have a filter. I guess I hold back on how I say certain things now, but if it's bothering me, I know it's bothering you. And then when I see these questions and our DMs you guys send me, or tagging me on the page, or you tag Ducks and Pucks page and send the Ducks and Pucks DM, it's just, I get your frustration, and it's really not fair. It's not fair because, like, no matter what, yeah, they're professional players, the professional hockey team, but it's still a product on an ice and a business, and the product that they're giving is for the fans, because without the fans, their team is nothing. So it's just not right. It sucks that we have to deal with this and deal with Murray, and I mean, obviously there's issues going on that the players aren't going to go out and call him out because they have a lot more class than that, and they really can't, because it's part of working for an organization and playing for a team. You can't really say things like that about management, but it's frustrating.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are frustrated with it too. And that's why I think every show we've had this season, we get these questions. So going forward, like I said, Aikens and Murray aren't going anywhere. So what do we have to do? How do we fix this problem, right? We can't look at that and sit there and dwell on that. Okay, so the way we look at it, and it's a good question, is Brandon T. Kerman on Instagram asks, how do we approach having a more balanced and consistent everyday lineup next season? That right there is part of the problem with this team. And I think this whole last year, an issue has been changing the lineup, moving players around, trying to figure out who you're going to put in there and whatnot. More so on the offense, I think, has been a huge issue. So a good thing that has come out of the end of the season is Comtois, Zegras, and Terry. Those three have really gelled in these last final games. I've thought that they've played fantastic. Comtois leading the team with goals. Zegras is getting his assists. He's gotten some goals too. I think the Ducks have to build off of that. They have to know that this is one of your top lines, either the number 1 or number 2 line. Then you have to build off of that. You have to figure out, okay, what are our other lines? Are we going to go with a Jones, Steele, Silverberg? A Heinen, Lundstrom, Raquel? What are we going to do? We had Milano was out for most of the season. He'll be back. What about Volkov, Henrique? You got to figure out how these other pieces of the puzzle fit in there for these other lines. And then, of course, the fourth line, is probably going to be, Grant, Delorier, and then whoever else is going to fit in there. But I think that's a huge problem, Eddie. We talked about this chemistry on this team was a huge issue. And I think if you can get that one line going and at least get a couple others established, if you can get your top 9 forwards established, you're not going to be a Stanley Cup winning team, but at least it's going to get them going in the right direction.
Yeah, and like I said, all I ask for is the Ducks to improve. I'm not looking for this team to all of a sudden be a Stanley Cup contender next season. No, I just want them to build off and improve from the season before. It seemed like they took a little bit of a step back last season. It was a rough season to watch. I think it was like probably one of the worst seasons for me to ever watch with everything going on. Another question, too, that I wanted to talk about was Cigars and Games on Instagram was talking about how is the regular season going to switch when it's non-COVID schedule and they actually go back to a normal hockey. I think it'll be better. I think especially with you have this new first line. Hopefully it goes next season. Comtois, Zegras, and Terry. They haven't really been able to hang out off the rink, go out to a bar, or I don't know if half of them are old enough to drink, but at least do something non-hockey related together out somewhere. I don't know, hell, go freaking go to Disneyland together. Just have that chemistry off the ice because it'll translate even more on the ice. Obviously, they like playing together. Comtois' interview, his exit interview the other day, he mentioned that too. It's fun to play with them, fun to play with Zegras. He was looking forward to that, and him just building off that. Just even better for him. I think he's going to have a good season next season. He put in a lot of work in the off season, going out and playing over there at the beach, playing in roller hockey. He just always wanted to get some more hockey in it and fine tune his skills. I think it's definitely something to build off of. Like that line is something special. You saw it forming. You saw that chemistry building. You saw something that's going to evolve with those three, and hopefully it translates in a lot more offensive production, especially on the power play. But I think next season it's going to be a little bit better when these players can actually go out and hang out and have some kind of chemistry in life other than just being stuck in a hotel, especially on the road. Like you're on the road, you're just being stuck at your hotel and you're afraid to probably actually go and sneak someone in your room after Washington getting caught doing that. But it's just we keep these players together and see what happens next season. Yeah, don't expect them to all score 50 goals each and propel the Ducks to a President's Trophy. But no, we can actually start building something for the future, and we could just build off them and hopefully become a playoff contending team in the next few seasons.
No, I agree with you. Definitely, getting back to normalcy and having, those relationships built when you're able to do all those things like you talked about. I think that's a huge part. And, consistency on offense. The other part that the Ducks have to figure out, and we're going to have a whole separate show on this, is the expansion draft and the draft lottery and all these other free agency. We're going to talk about all this stuff. But for the expansion, they got to figure out what they're going to do. So you figure out the forward situation, who you want in there, whatnot. We talked about it. You have the options of 7 forwards, 3 defensemen, and 1 goalie. Or you can protect 8 players, forwards, defensemen, however many you want, and a goalie. Well, what the Ducks need to do is they have to figure out what's the defensive core going to be. Because at the beginning of the season, the Ducks' defensive core was fine. The Ducks were one of the best teams, limiting other opponents to goals. They had a great penalty kill. And then, as the season progressed, it got worse and worse and worse. It wasn't as good as it was in the beginning, unfortunately. But that's what they got to figure out. Drysdale is going to be one of your top 4 guys. Okay, you don't have to worry about him in this expansion draft. But then after that, you got to figure out, okay, so what are you going to do? Are you most likely going to protect Fowler, Lindholm, and Manson? Okay, then what about Shattenkirk and Fleury? What are you going to do? I mean, how are you going to build off of this? I mean, to me, with the way things are going, it sounds like the Ducks might try to go with the 8-1 route and keep Fleury, Lindholm, Manson, and Fowler and have those guys as your other 4. And then you have Drysdale. That's pretty good, 5 guys. And then Shattenkirk, well, he's kind of out in the cold either way. I think. I didn't think he played as well as we thought he would this last year. I thought he made too many turnovers and got too many penalties. But that's what the Ducks have to do on the defensive side. They have to figure out with this expansion draft who are going to be the core guys on the defense. Who do we want to bring back? I think that's the other part of this formula. We know Gibson's going to be in net. You don't even need to talk about that. So you got to figure out who the lines are going to be on offense, but also who are going to be the guys that we want to protect and are going to be the core moving forward defensively, Eddie.
Yeah, that's going to be a really, really hard one to do. Obviously, it seems like someone has to be traded. A shakeup has to be made on that blue line. But it's just who? I'm looking at this list. I know people want to throw out Fowler. He's been popular as a trade rumor. Manson too has been popular, but I don't want to see any of these players gone. I think they can bring value to the team. Maybe Shattenkirk, but with his contract and how he's played, I don't think we'll have any suitors, and we'll really get that significant return for him. But Fleury, we don't know what we have in him right now. But I think it's safe to say, Drysdale and Lindholm Fowler maybe are going to stay for sure. I would hate to see a player like Manson gone. He's the kind of player I love to see, the style of player I like, and I think it's someone that's needed. But just taking away emotional attachment and being the fan, I think he'd be the most logical person to go. He'd fetch a really good return. It's gonna be really hard to actually see him if that's the route they're willing to go. He's been dealing with injuries. I think he's still poised to have that play of a season that we know he can be and he can help. It just the defense is going to be difficult. Like it's going to be really that's going to be a hard decision to make. And what happens with our defensive core? It's crazy. I think the only one I wouldn't be that upset seeing go is Shattenkirk, but even then his first season after winning the cup, you saw flashes of greatness and how he can help the team. Who knows? Like, do you trade him or let him get taken, or he goes to another team and all of a sudden he just has a breakout season and he starts delivering those product that we needed on the Ducks? It's just that's going to be a difficult decision. This is the one where it's like, okay, I got to really. No, I can't even sit down and sit there and really put together something because it's going to be hard regardless to see any of these guys either get exposed or get traded.
Yeah, and we're going to tackle that in a whole separate show. So stay tuned for that. We'll have that as one of our off-season content because we're going to do a deep dive into that and who they're going to sign and whatnot. We'll talk about free agency and all that. So we're going to save that for another show. But a lot to look into, even though the season is done. As we get towards wrapping up the show here, before we dive into the league news, because there's some stuff in there that I'm super fired up about. I'm really upset about the league. They may try to come after me again after this next segment. But I do want to take a moment and dedicate this show. If you don't know David Santa Maria, he passed away recently. His whole family had COVID. His son and daughter were fine. His wife was fine. He had some other health issues, and COVID ended up taking his life. So if you didn't know, I'm just putting it out there now. He was no longer on Twitter anymore. He still kind of has his Facebook page up. I just kind of wanted to mention that. He was a big fan of the Ducks. He was an Air Force veteran. I think that's why he and I got along well. I think that's why he got along with Eddie pretty well. Also, he came to the watch parties. We used to always talk about the players and what we thought. We'd evaluate the talent and, as far as bringing this guy back or trading that guy. He and I used to go to Anaheim Ice and sit out there and wait for the players to come out and get autographs or photos and whatnot. Just an all-around good guy. And I just found out about what had happened. I guess it happened a few weeks or so back. So it's just tough. It's tough. A lot of stuff's going on. And I just want to dedicate it to him. He'd always been a loyal supporter of the show and Eddie and I. So my heart goes out to the rest of their family, Eddie.
Yeah, well said, Mike. He was a really great man, really great family man. He was my brother in the military. He was the Air Force, he was the Army. We had that personal connection, that bond from that. He loved his kids. He loved his son. He always supported his son playing hockey. He loved his family. He was a really great guy. It's just hard to see people like that go. And I've said it numerous times. I don't handle death well at all. And I'll be the first to admit it. I think I'm a pretty tough guy. And I've dealt with a lot of adversity in my life. And what I've accomplished in my personal life to where I am now, I think it's pretty significant. But it's just when it comes to death, I don't care who it is. When I know you're a good person, I would trade my life for theirs. I've said it numerous times, and I'll keep saying it. It's just, I'm grateful I got the opportunity to hang out with them, to share drinks, just share food, watch some Ducks games live, and on our watch parties. It was an honor knowing him and someone like that. And I'll see you in our next life, man. So I guarantee that we'll be part of each other's life. So rest in peace and well said, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. If you didn't know him, like we said, family man. Definitely be keeping in touch with his kids and whatnot and everything going forward. So it's been rough, like I said, the last couple weeks. I've had some stuff going on. I posted some stuff on social media so you guys know what I'm talking about. So live every day to the fullest. Is what I can say, and I know it's a rough time for everybody. So try to find the good if you can and everything in life. So with that, let's wrap up the show. We still have more stuff to talk about. Crazy stuff going on in the NHL. Talking about adversity, you brought up Eddie. Let's talk about Buffalo Sabres, man. Jack Eichel, he is not happy. What do you think? You think he's going to get moved, or what's the word out of Buffalo?
I don't know. It seems like every off season when Buffalo's in a shit position that they're in, he just has to bitch about something. Dude, come on. Like, you're the superstar player. You're a phenomenal player. Hands down, you're great. But it's just every season you're crying about something, complaining. I think it's a privilege to play in the NHL, and you're blessed with amazing abilities and amazing, just like the way that you can be a professional athlete. But when you're bitching and crying, even though after your first season, how you were complaining about if certain coach was here, you didn't want to play. It's becoming a negative pattern with you. And yeah, I get it. Buffalo is it seems like a hard place to play in. They're bad. They're bad right now, but they're a team that drafted you. If you don't want to be there, just speak to internally about that situation and let the people in charge know if you really want out of there. Just stop throwing out to the media how upset you are, how things are handled, and blah blah blah. Just play your game and be that leader that you can be. I don't know if there's more to it. Or I don't know what's going on, but it just seems like it's just a pattern with this player. Now, should the Ducks be interested in a player like this? Absolutely. I think every team, including Seattle, should be interested in a player like this because he's a phenomenal player. He has a lot of special talent. He's a superstar. He's a superstar that the Ducks haven't had in a very long time. A lot of teams haven't had in a long time, and I think he can accelerate and propel a team. But if he's going to sit there and cry after every offseason when it doesn't go his way, then it gets annoying. I expect these players, for hockey players, to have that sort of professionalism, to be a little bit better than all the other sports, professional sports that are out there. It just seems like it's one of those negative patterns. I don't know. Maybe this season is different. Maybe they did something to really piss him off, but I mean, fool me once, shame on you kind of thing. It's the third season in a row where he's saying something, his name's coming up, and this is like he's back in the rumor mill again. If it's not working out, Buffalo should try to trade him, but if they did, it's going to command a huge return. If Ducks fans, I know you guys are probably interested in him. I mean, despite him crying and complaining on how he does, I'm interested in him because he's a superstar player and he's a phenomenal player. But just if you want this trade to happen, be saying goodbye to Zegras or Drysdale, or maybe even both if they want a big overpayment, because you can't keep Zegras and Drysdale and get a player like Eichel. There's no way. And you can kiss maybe this first round pick overall or maybe next round pick overall. For sure, it's going to be gone. It's going to be a huge return. Now the question is, are the Ducks going to go for it? Probably not. Who we have, our GM over there. But then again, is it really worth it to what we're doing right now? Because the Ducks still don't really have that 100% identity in where they're going to go. We're barely figuring out certain things right now with Zegras and Drysdale and Comtois. But is that enough to go and gamble for a player like this, to be invested in that $10 million a season pretty much that's pretty much another decade-long commitment for him? And is that really going to risk giving up a player like Zegras or Drysdale? Because we still don't know 110% what they're going to be. One of these players can be the top 5 player in the whole world. We don't know that. It's a gamble that they're going to have to make. And I personally, as much as I would love a player like his caliber to be on the Ducks, I don't think it's the right move necessarily right now to make.
Yeah, I think the issue is if the Ducks do go for it, like you said, I mean, you're going to have to start this conversation with Zegras or Drysdale to get this kind of going in any direction. And I just think that's a tough sell. I mean, we've seen what these two guys have done so far this season. And don't get me wrong, Eichel's a great player too, but I mean, are you going to push that? Are you going to give one of those guys up? You're going to have to probably give up another prospect player, another roster player. I mean, there's a lot you're going to probably have to give. If he leaves Buffalo, which kind of sounds like there's talks of that, because he talked about, getting ready to play hockey next year, and then he said, quote, wherever that might be. So, I mean, that may be, being flown around right now in the summertime and whatnot, but that's a huge price to pay. If the Ducks are going to go after him, you're going to give up one of those two guys that we're really big on right now. Have done pretty well, obviously, in this first shortened season that they've been up, and then give up more on top of that, because, I mean, it's going to ask a lot. So, and then and don't forget, like you said, he kind of seems to be kind of complaining about things at the end of each year. I don't know. I don't think that's necessarily the direction that the Ducks want to go in. So, I think something will happen with him. If he doesn't get moved soon, I think it will be in the near future. I don't see him coming to Anaheim. So we'll just have to watch that situation and see how it unfolds. And we've had a couple other situations happen, Eddie. We had, people were talking about Aikens and Murray and all this stuff going on. We had a couple coaches here that the team's parted ways with.
Yeah, I think it's really weird about Rick Tocchet and the Coyotes agreed to part ways. I thought he was doing a pretty decent job over there in Arizona. Maybe it's one of those things that the players didn't get along, or he had some kind of disagreement with management. We don't know. I'm pretty sure it'll come out, but I think it's kind of a blow for the Coyotes. They're kind of a team on that verge of you see them and the flashes of greatness they do have, but then they always just fumble toward the end. There's a lot of good coaches out there coming, so we have to wait and see. Now that the whole Tortorella thing and Blue Jackets, I didn't, it was one of those things you saw happening. So them kind of agreeing to part ways is something that people expected. Torts is a really, I guess, a difficult coach to play for, but I kind of like that style of coaching. I like that hard nose, not afraid to bench who you are. If you're a superstar player, a first-year player, if you're a full-on season vet, he wants perfection. I think he wants that perfection of people. Maybe it's unfair for him to request that, but I like that. It brings out the best in him. And players I've heard talk about him will say that, like, yeah, he's a hard coach. It's hard to play for him, but for some reason, he tends to bring the best out of you. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see these two names thrown out there, especially with the Kraken still searching for their coach. We have Gallant, Boudreau, Claude Julien out there too. So they have a lot to choose from. But I don't expect these two players or these two coaches to be without jobs anytime soon. I think that any teams will pick them up. And as far as Ducks aspects, this is a Ducks and Pucks podcast. As much as I like Tortorella, I think his hard-nosed style would probably rub the wrong way against our younger players. It's a different generation. You have to approach them a different way. I think Rick Tocchet would benefit more from the roster and the players that we do have than Tortorella. It would be really cool to see Tortorella and what he can do and help elevate the Ducks, but I just don't think it'd work out for the Ducks, even though he's probably one of my favorite coaches in the league.
Yeah, I think Torts and Murray would go at it. We'd have to put them like in a ring and let them box it out. So I don't think the personality's there.
Yep. Well, that's what I was joking too. Like, why don't you bring Patrick Wall as a GM and Tortorella as the head coach? Because I guarantee there'll be blows thrown because both of them are hard headed. And then I was joking too about Elon Musk as the owner, just throwing it out there.
Yeah, have Tesla as the sponsor for the Ducks. Yeah, so I don't know. We'll have to see. I'm with you though. I think both of them will end up in another spot. And then we did talk about the comeback on Catella because we like to talk about that. That just happened. But the Edmonton Oilers, man, Connor McDavid's just destroying stuff. 100 points in 53 games, Eddie.
Yeah, that kid is phenomenal. He's something special, and no matter like how much you hate the Oilers, regardless of which team you follow, it's just you have to respect that. He's just a great player. 100 points in 53 games. That's just crazy. It sucks that Edmonton's not going to win a cup anytime soon. They're going to still be in that mediocre kind of way and probably going to be bounced out the first round. But it's good to see him thriving like that. Now, you know what? If you want to throw rumors around and have a player like him come in Anaheim, okay, then I wouldn't mind giving up a player like Zegras or Drysdale for that, even the first. Like, easy. I might even want to give up two players for him, but congratulations to him. You have to respect that as a hockey fan.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's been playing out of his mind for Edmonton. So, all right, now to the big part that happened this last week or so. We had the New York Rangers, Washington Capitals, Battle Royale, WWE, SmackDown. And this is where I was not happy with the league, with the way things went down. You had these guys battling it out. You had basically the Rangers trying to score, and you had Wilson getting involved in the play there, then him getting pulled off a player. Basically, he ends up body slamming Panarin on the ice, like I said, WWE style. He gets fined by the favorite language you like, the maximum allowable under the CBA, right? $5,000, and then basically all chaos ensues after that. You have the Rangers calling out George Peros in a statement. They end up getting fined $250,000. You have these two teams playing again. They go at it like line brawl style, going nuts, which, I mean, Eddie and I love the fights, right? So they went crazy in that game afterwards. But what just a cluster F, Eddie. I mean, the player safety, they ended up not suspending Wilson. And then, of course, you know that there was going to be some, shenanigans and things going on in the game after that. That unfolded too. Wilson got knocked out of that game. I don't even know where to begin or end with this. Just that I was just disappointed in the league that they didn't take any action against a repeat offender. And then as a result, I love the chaos, don't get me wrong, in that game afterwards. But, I mean, really, you don't go after him? I mean, with what he did. And don't forget, he knocked Panarin out for the rest of the season too, Eddie.
Yeah, that was kind of like, I feel bad going against what happened and not siding with Tom Wilson, because I like that kind of style of play. I like the hard nose. I like the kind of old school. I think a line was crossed. I think it was a bitch move for Wilson, and it looked like he grabbed Panarin's by his hair and slammed him on the ice. But even to slam someone on the ice, that's still just like, you have that big of an issue with someone, drop your gloves and just start throwing blows. You're gonna slam someone to the ice. I think that's an intentional way to injure someone, and I think when you do that, you have that intent to injure. And I think there should have been some kind of some kind of supplemental discipline. And if you say, oh, he was fined $5,000, for these guys, that's not anything. That's like you getting a parking ticket. Even though parking tickets are really bad, they're more annoying than a regular ticket. It's just he's had a history of questionable calls like that, and it's a bad look. And and don't get me wrong, I love the hard physical style of hockey. I love the old school style of hockey, but you intentionally slamming someone's head on the ice, you know what you're doing. You can say the heat of the moment all you want, maybe, but it's like you're already punching someone on the ground already with their head. You're punching their head on the ice with your gloves on, and then you go and slam him down by pulling his hair. Obviously, you know what you were doing. Yeah, you could send a text to him later that night, making sure he's okay, but obviously you screwed up big time, and it wasn't one of those heat of the moment kind of things, because it's been numerous times you've done similar things like this. Of course, the dips at over there, the player safety, George Peros. I'm calling him out directly because he's been a piece of shit. I'm sorry. That suspension on Cogliano still rubs me the wrong way. When you had Kings fans even agreeing that Cog shouldn't have been suspended, you took away someone's, I guess, his legacy, his Iron Man strength, because you wanted to just show that you weren't one of those tough guys before, or you wanted to prove a point, and you did it wrong. Obviously, Princeton didn't help you because you're still a dumbass and you shouldn't be in the position you are. And I'll go ahead and say that. The only issue I had with this whole situation was that New York Rangers, they issued a official PR release, which I agree with what they said 100%, but it shouldn't have been an official PR release, because I don't think, and I know for a fact now, since the GM and the president are gone and they made their comments, that the whole entire New York Rangers organization didn't really stand behind them and agree with that. I think it should have been handled differently. Maybe comments to the press, post-game comments, which go a long way. A paper, make a comment to the paper, like I said, the press, but just to make that official release, I think it was wrong. Of course, the fine was going to be warranted, because the NHL gets really super sensitive when you call them out on anything and everything. But I think it could have been handled differently. I guess I agree with everything they did, except making that official team press release. Unless every one of the team was involved and they agreed with that, which obviously it wasn't, because the GM and the president both were kind of came out and said that they were just kind of going away from that, and they didn't really know what was going on until that statement was released.
Yeah, I think you and I are in the same boat on this. I mean, them coming out and putting out something was one thing, but like you said, they made an official statement, and then they named George Peros in the statement. And then, of course, like you said, the GM and the president are fired. And then there was disagreement on who basically felt that the statement should have been put out, or the context of the statement. Not everybody was on the same page, basically, with that statement and what was actually in it. So that caused some problems. Then the league throws on the $250,000 fine on them. So I'm like, oh, okay. So you had that going on. That was blowing up everything. The other game fighting it out and all this stuff. And then, yeah, of course, if you're a Ducks fan, I saw all the people talking about Cogliano. That's when we felt that George Peros should have been gone that day. When Cogliano got suspended, I was really upset. We had T-shirts ready to go for the Iron Man. We were hoping that he would break the streak, and he was obviously still on the Ducks. He got traded after the fact, obviously, but we were excited, and so was everybody else. We were like, "Oh, he's gonna break the streak. We're gonna have these, cool whatever design." We were playing around with a whole bunch of different designs at the time, which also the T-shirts got me in trouble because the league tried to come after me at one point. So I understand, coming after different people from the league. So I get it. They may try to do something with us on this show, but we talked about Peros before and said how we weren't happy, so they can bring it, because we actually have a corporation. If people don't know, this isn't just a podcast or a website. We actually have a legitimate business. So if they want to sue us, bring it on. They won't get a penny from us talking about this, but it's just not right. What happened here Wilson should have been suspended, period. I don't even care if it was one game. He should have been suspended for more. But if they would have suspended him for the one game, them playing that next contest against the Rangers, that would have at least lessened some of it. Obviously, they probably still would have been fighting and hard hits and things going on, but they didn't do anything. And so you basically are saying, okay, we're leaving it up to the players to do the ice justice here and go at it. Now, if they wanted to do that for more ratings or whatever, well, they sure got it, because, I tuned into the game and we talked about it, and they went nuts in that game. And of course, did I like watching it? Yeah, I did like watching it, but I didn't like the reasoning behind it. I felt that some of this could have been avoided. And then, you screwed up the Iron Man streak too. And, it's just not good. It's not a good look for the league, sadly, when you're not dealing with someone. And this is a guy that's a repeat offender. That's their big word that they talk about, is like, oh my gosh, like Rafi Torres, repeat offender. Well, he's a repeat offender. Then why don't you take care of it? Why did you let him do a wrestling move, basically, on the ice? And I heard some people defending him like, well, he didn't take off his gloves. I'm like, really? Shut up. He didn't take off his gloves. Get out. It doesn't matter. He grabbed this guy by the hair, body slammed him, and punched him on the ice while he's defenseless. That's just uncalled for. Like you said, he could have grabbed him right then, dropped his gloves. They could have done their punches and all that stuff, and it would have been done. We wouldn't even be talking about this right now. Instead, he decides to do what he did, and he doesn't get a punishment. It just sends a bad message. And then it leads to the Rangers making that comment, that post, whoever put that out, whatever, their statement, they get fined. And then it was just all drama. I felt like this was like the NHL soap opera for daytime watching. I don't know. I just wasn't happy with the way that this unfolded. I think it could have been handled a lot cleaner. And instead it made for all this bad blood and all the stuff that happened. And they got more ratings out of it, but it's just crazy, Eddie. And what's sad about this too is we talk about Dave earlier and him passing away. We'll look at Oshie. He lost his dad, and what was lost in that second game is the fact that he got a hat trick to honor his dad, and that was overshadowed by all this craziness. And that's not right. I'm just not happy with that. It's just unfortunate. We talk about emotion. There's a lot of anger in this stuff. I'm angry at the league the way it happened. But then you have Oshie, who's able to honor his dad and do what he did, who's a tremendous player. It's just a mess. That's all I can really say about this whole thing. Just frustrating. I'm glad TJ was able to get that hat trick for his dad that passed away. But, man, dude, there's just so much going on with this. And it could have just been dealt with in a better fashion, Eddie.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned TJ Oshie too, because I totally blanked out and forgot about that. Like you said, all the situation overshadowed that moment that should have been highlighted more than what the other things we're talking about, and that's more important. My whole issue with Peros is I'm not just saying like, oh, because he went against a Ducks fan or Ducks and he went Cogliano and the streak. No. It's just the thing. It seems like he made an example out of Cogliano to prove a point, saying, "Hey, well, he doesn't care about a streak. He doesn't care about his former team." It just, I guess, Cogs was kind of that scapegoat for him to kind of just flex on him. I guess, like, "Hey, well, I'm in this position. I'm newly appointed in this position. I'm going to lay down the law." But then you come in, you let Wilson just get a fine. Like, this just makes no sense. Like, it seems like you just don't know what you're doing in that situation. And it's kind of sad, and it's really unfortunate that you screwed up two big significant times. Like that first one, like I said, you have Kings fans saying a Ducks player shouldn't have been suspended. That's number one right there. And like you said before, like Ducks fans or hockey fans aren't stupid. There's a lot of players, people that know the game well, all because they never played it or they're not professionals. Doesn't mean they don't know the game. There's a lot of fans that know how the game's supposed to be played. You could take Kadri, for example. His dad never played professional hockey, but he's Kadri mentioned on a podcast that he is one of the most knowledgeable people about the game. It just goes to show you right there. And look at his son. His son is a top player in the league. He's doing well over there with Colorado now. It's just bad for NHL, and there was a bad look for it. And you have, it seems like you have, like, when something bad happens in NHL, you have it highlighted by other outlets that usually don't cover the NHL. They only cover the bad stuff, and that was kind of bad. It's like, it's a bad look for it, and something kind of needs to change next season. I know the league is trying to sway away from the hard hit physicality and the fighting, but it's just, this player safety has been a joke. It's not really helping the league at all. It's just kind of, I think it's hindering it and hurting it more. You're losing fan bases, and now you're losing even some of the people that were into fighting, into the hard hits, when you have situations like this happen. Like, yeah, you have those few people that are defending him, mostly the Capitals fans or whatnot, but I like to see myself as a big supporter of the old school physical and rough style of hockey. I kind of borderline flirting with it being overboard, and I'm over here saying that was an issue, and what I saw wasn't right. And another issue I had too that I'll bring up, and just for calling people out, is the New York Rangers players, because you just got your best players slammed onto the ice and hurt, and no one beat the shit out of Tom Wilson. I don't care if the ref was there or not. It'd be worth it to go after that and get your players back. And yeah, they did the next game, all that, but it should have been handled right then and there, and it would have been over with, instead of just having it translate and linger over. And that next game, everything would have been fine and done, and then you could have had the highlight of the game being Oshie's hat trick for his father, but it wasn't. It just the Rangers players failed to act on it, and that's what kind of like rubbed me the wrong way. Like, I've been in situations where I've played, and I've seen a teammate get like really hurt, significantly hurt. One example was in Colorado. Dude was cross-checking in the back of the neck, and he was like, my teammate was out for a little bit. He didn't really get up. I beat the crap out of that guy, and then another guy came, and the ref tried to hold me back, and I knocked the ref over and beat the crap out of that guy too. It's just, I had my teammates back. That's kind of the player I was, and the kind of person I am. If you're gonna intentionally and physically hurt someone to the point where they can't even get up from the ice, I don't care who's in front of me. I'm dropping him. I'm going, and I'm not the biggest guy in the world. Trust me. Especially now, I lost 40 pounds, so I'm even smaller. But I think the Rangers should have handled that situation right there, and I guess the refs too. I'm sorry, I'm rambling on, but I think the refs too should have let the situation be handled right there. That ice justice that first game, and that would have been it. But it's just a big old cluster, and I'll say it's a clusterfuck, Mike. You got the right word. And I haven't used the F-bomb this show, so I can use it, but it was a big cluster F now.
Yeah, exactly. And you touched on a good point, too. They could have, the Ranger players could have ended it right there in that game. They could have done some stuff, too, and they didn't. So, I mean, the whole situation was just a big problem. And, you have these guys out there that do this kind of stuff, and people that don't watch the sport don't understand fighting. And they think, oh, you go to a game and, oh, yeah, you just kick each other's ass. No, that's not what it is. Like, something has to happen for a fight to occur. If you're trying to score a goal, the goalie stops it, and then you start whacking at that goalie or pushing him in, guess what? That's what's going to happen. That's why I don't have a problem with the initial stuff that happened. It totally makes sense. You have someone do a late hit. You have someone run at a star player, stuff like that. That's why, like back in the day, we had Todd Ewan, Stu Grimson, even on the Kings, Marty McSorley, players like that would go do things and do what they had to do. Granted, they done things and taken liberties too. There's that part of it as well. But you had that understanding that, okay, you don't do certain things or else, you're going to have to pay for it. And I agree with you. I think that was part of the problem in the first game. And then the league not doing what they did led to the chaos in the second game. And I was just cracking up. There were so many people in the penalty box. There was, I think, more players there than on the bench at one point. It was just crazy. And, don't get me wrong. I like it. When two teams don't like each other, like the Ducks and the Kings, and they go at it, Edmonton, Calgary, they go at it, like just because they hate each other, hey, I love it. But this was something that got blown out of proportion. It could have been dealt with a lot sooner. So, I don't know. It's just crazy. It's just, I don't know. Wilson's going to have a big target on his back going forward. So, that was the craziness that happened for those couple games. I mean, you got entertainment, right? The Gladiator. Are you not entertained? Right? Yeah. There you go. So, the other thing that came up that really upset me, and if you didn't listen to the last show, we had Ken on from Sin Bin Vegas, talked about Robin Lanier and his situation Well, now the league has come out and said, hey, for the playoffs, if a traveling team is 85% vaccinated, then they're going to lessen the restrictions. And this isn't a discussion about vaccines or all that. I don't really care. You're all intelligent people. You can decide what you want to do. This discussion is about what Lanier said. He went off on like a 10, 11-minute rant. We talked about on the last show that the mental health, all the other things going on in the world, he was told, he wouldn't say who, but he was told that the restrictions would get lessened. And then he got filleted, and everybody was like, oh yeah, whatever. Nobody said anything, came out and did anything. Now all of a sudden TSN reports, oh yeah, they are going to do this. And lo and behold, the magic number is 85%, which is what Lanier said was 85%. So this is another example of the league screwing up. Yeah, NHL, you screwed up. You listening to me? I hope so, because you did. This guy came out and said that. He had a mental issue and breakdown with it. He even had a really good tweet with a thread about mental health where he said, listen, we don't all have to agree about mental health, but it's an issue. We need to have an open discussion. He decided to do that, impromptu on that press conference thing there. Whatever you feel about it, whether it was planned, not planned, whatever. He did that. The league stayed quiet. They didn't say a damn thing about what he said. And it's bullshit. I'm so pissed off at the league about this because he got so much scrutiny over that. And then the league did exactly what he was talking about, but they remained silent. And I'm not saying the league could have came out and said, hey, yeah, what he's saying is true, yada, yada, yada. They could have come out and said, yes, we are looking into that. They didn't even have the balls to do that. They just stayed quiet while he got the target of wrath of people like, oh, you're full of crap. Oh, talking about the NBA protocols and that the NHL is going to model it. Oh, yeah, whatever. And people went after him. And that's not right. You're not backing up your player. Okay, if he would have come out and said something that was complete BS, they probably would have fined him, suspended him, done all that. Instead, he came out and said exactly what he was told because the league came out and said this, what it was a week or two later. And they didn't support him. So it just pisses me off. This is my time to rant, by the way. So that's where I'm at on this, Eddie. It just makes me mad because Ken and I talked about on the last show, and you did too, that he wasn't making this up. He had to have heard this from somewhere. And we talked about it. Was it the PA? Was it the GM and the team in Vegas? Was it the league? Well, we all know it's from the league now because they came out and said exactly what he said. And they sat there and were quiet while he got all kinds of crap on social media about it. And he was right in the end. And it's just unfair, Eddie. That's I'm done. But it makes me mad because he came out and said what he felt. Mental health's a huge issue. You and I have talked about it on this show all this season, all before the lockdowns and everything. He's coming from a good place. He's venting. Maybe he should have got approval to speak out. If you want to give him shit for that, fine. But the fact that he said it and that the league sat there and didn't do anything till well after the fact, I'm sorry. I can't get behind that.
Yeah, and you have to understand too is when people deal with mental health issues, sometimes it just happens randomly. Like you speak out, like you can't hold it in anymore because the biggest problem with mental health too is people holding it in, and it builds up and it builds up and it builds up, and that's when you explode and do something really bad, and either you just go on a binger or you say something like really over extreme. So him just going out and saying what he did, obviously it was affecting him and bothering him a lot, where he just had to get it out of the system, and I'm pretty sure it felt good. But then again, it probably felt worse when people are trying to talk crap to him and saying he's lying, and the league coming out and trying to discredit him, and then it comes out that he was right, and there's crickets from the league. They're not over there apologizing. They're not. It's dumb. The whole situation is stupid. I can go on forever about it. I'm going to cut my ranting short because I ranted enough on the show about other topics, but this one I know strikes the nerve with some people, so I'll just leave it at that. I'm glad he came out and called them out. I'm glad he spoke his piece and his truth. And you know what, Robin Leonard, keep doing what you do. Keep playing a good athlete. a role model for mental health. And if something's on your mind, just go ahead and freaking say it.
Yeah, and then he did. He posted a good thread on Twitter, if you didn't see it, talking about all of it. And I thought it was awesome. So it's going to be interesting what happens in Vegas too, Eddie, because you have Vegas and the Avs. They're battling it out for first place. We know that the Wild and the Blues are in it. So if you're looking for hockey playoffs, I think it's going to come down to the Golden Knights and the Avs. We'll have to see what happens. But what are your thoughts on at least the West Division and how it can play out? Obviously, these teams can shift around. The top three can shift around here in these last final games. But what do you think?
It's gonna be a fun one. It's gonna be a wild ride. If the Golden Knights get a point, they're gonna clinch that top spot in the West. It's gonna be. I want to say the Avs are gonna go on a 3-game win streak, and the Golden Knights aren't gonna win or even get a point and get that top spot in the West. But I can't see it happening. I think the Knights will take the top spot in the West. I think the Knights will take the President's Trophy in this situation. But I still really hold my hopes up and high for the Avalanche winning the Cup. They have a great team. It's going to be fun. And I really want to see the Knights and the Avs go at it in the playoffs. I even want to see the Wild and the Avs go at it at the playoffs, because I think the Avs owe the Wild an ass kicking from the last time they met in the playoffs. It wasn't pretty. Tyson Barrie went down when they had him by a cheap shot by Matt Cook, and I know there's a lot of bad blood between those two teams from that incident, including the fan base. So that'd be a fun one. But regardless, this is it's going to be fun regardless. And the playoffs should be interesting. For the West, it's going to be really fun. Another one too, since we're jumping, I'll jump and start with the Central, Mike. The Canes, Panthers, Lightning, and Preds are going to be in the playoffs, but the Panthers and Lightning are going to meet for the first time in the playoffs against each other. I think it's going to spark a big rivalry between the Florida fans even more. You're going to meet in the playoffs. It's going to be a hard-fought battle, and I'm looking forward to watching that too, and watching and not just watching, but hearing the fans' perspective on that and seeing how much they're going to get more hatred for each other.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Kings Ducks, right? So now you got Canes and Panthers and Lightning. So I mean, you're going to have those guys going at it. So that's going to be something to watch. That'll be fun. It looks like in the East you got the Pens and the Caps, Bruins and Islanders, and then in the North you got the Leafs, Oilers, Jets, and then Montreal, Calgary battling out most likely Montreal. So you have to watch those as well. I'm not as excited about those as much, I guess, but I'm going to hang with the West. I really want to see what happens. I'm more for the Knights. I know you're more for the Avs, obviously, but if one of those two teams pulls it out from the West, I'm happy there. We talked about the Penguins. That's my other team, but Carter's on that team, even though he's tearing it up on that team. It's killing me. I don't want the Pens have won enough cups, so they don't need to win anymore. So I'm good with them not doing anything. So that's just kind of my take. The North, obviously, Canadian teams. I guess I'd probably go with the Jets out of that group, but not as much interest there. I don't know what your take is on those other divisions, Eddie.
Yeah. Maybe the Islanders, I would say, because of Varlamov, but like the way their fan base treated Tavares for leaving, I think they're just crying a little too much. I guess I can easily say I don't really care who wins the East. I'll probably go for the Bruins. Have them go and win it. I don't have an issue with the Bruins. I like Pasternak. I think he's a good goalie, or not goalie. I'm sorry, a good forward. He came back, and I like him. As far as the North. That's a tough one. It's most likely going to be Montreal, and I'll probably go with the underdog and want to see Montreal take it. I wouldn't mind seeing Perry lift the cup. I think that'd be pretty cool. Other than that, it's just I think all eyes are going to be on the West for all of the fan bases, the West and that Panthers and Lightning series.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to both those. Those are the two that I'm going to keep my eye on. So, wow, what a marathon show. This is like the longest show I think we've ever done. So much to talk about and cover. a lot of emotions. Obviously, Eddie had his rant. I had my rant. Talking about Miller and Backus and all kinds of things going on. Don't forget, as we wrap this up here, we're going to have our bracket challenge. You can look. It's going to be at the Ducks and Pucks bracket challenge, where we're going to have some giveaways on there. You can go to bracketchallenge.nhl.com/leagues/2041. Don't ask me why, but that's what it is. It's /leagues/2041 on there. So check that out. We had our fantasy hockey. Those guys are going to get prizes. We're going to contact them. We had Arctic Bums came in first, Blue Steel in second, Crazy Chad in third. Don't forget Patreon to sign up on there, patreon.com/DucksNPucks. We're giving away, I have extra stuff I'm going to give away to those people on there. We did some game tickets like I talked about, the TPN store as well. And all our sponsors we got to thank this season: Bucked Up, Manscaped, OC Animal Care, On the Volley, who's made some great stuff for us, and Mercury Insurance as well, as we gave away items too. Also, happy Mother's Day to all of you out there, whether you're a mom or you're celebrated with your mom as well this weekend. So a lot of stuff going on, Eddie. Crazy season. We finally got to the end of it. I appreciate you and also everyone else that's done stuff on our website. I mean, Thomas. We had Mario and Aaron also filling in there at the end. I had a lot of personal stuff going on the last week, as we talked about. So just really appreciative. It's been a tough time for myself, for I know a lot of you out there too as well. It hasn't been easy. The season's been rough. Ducks got through it. We'll look forward to the offseason. We'll have a couple other shows going over some things. And, obviously gear it up for next year. But I'm appreciative. A lot of guys helped out, and you too, Eddie. So,
same here. We had Logan, too. He puts in some work, too, going with the prospects. But, yeah, I want to thank you, Mike. I know you worked double the hard this season, covering all those games. You with your full-time job, plus the hours that you work, and you were still day in and day out, the taxi squad. Transactions too, you were always on top of that. It took a team effort, but I think you went above and beyond. And yeah, this is your baby, this is your beauty. But I mean, you take it to heart and really want to be the one to give the factual and correct information, unbiased opinion about the Ducks. And I think you did a hell of a job this season, and you tore it up. So good job.
No, I appreciate it. And like you said, though, it takes a team. It's not just me. Thomas, Aaron, Mario, Logan, like you talked about, you as well. All of us, putting in the time. Guys helping out, covering the games. I wasn't the one that always covered the games on Twitter. There were other people that were doing it as well, doing the recaps and whatnot. And everything like that. The taxi squad, F the taxi squad. Like, I'm done with that. They said they weren't going to do it next season. I hope the league doesn't. Monitoring all that this last, even though it was a short season, was a pain in the what. I'm not going to lie. Trying to follow that and put out everything and who got waived and who's on what and this and that. That was annoying. I even made up a section in the game previews of the taxi squad just to cover that. Had to modify that. So, definitely a pain. But no, in all seriousness, like we said, this show has probably been the longest one we've ever done. A lot of emotion as we wrap up the season, and I'm appreciative for everybody sticking through. It's been since 2014 we've been doing this. Pretty crazy. So I appreciate it. And we'll be back in another week or two. Like I said, we're not going anywhere. We'll cover the off season, keep everything going. I hope everybody out there is staying safe. I hope you had a good weekend with your family, and a happy Mother's Day. And as always, let's go Ducks.